Welcome to the Misfit Broadcast. Today we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. So we just got the most recent trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, and today we're going to talk about it a little bit, break it down, go into some opinions on the internet, my personal opinions, how I feel it's going to fit in with everything in the MCU and where this could possibly play out. So the synopsis for this movie is Peter goes on a school trip with his friends in an attempt to take a short break from being Spider-Man. That is until Nick Fury shows up and recruits him to deal with these elemental creatures that are causing all sorts of destruction across the continent of Europe. So I'm not positive where it fits in the timeline. They've been hiding the date from us in the trailer itself. The common belief is that it takes place after Endgame, the next Avengers movie. So we're going to see about that. I personally think it's a prequel, and later on in the podcast, we're going to discuss why I feel that way. So, at the start of the trailer, we get a cool view of the wingsuit and then a shot of some havoc and destruction going on the London Bridge that comes back around in the trailer later on. So we see Spider-Man at a charity event with Aunt May, which is very different. I feel like it's very reminiscent of how it is in the current PS4 video game. I'm not sure if Aunt May has a ton to do with a charity in the comics. I would assume so, considering it's been in the game and the movie now. In the very next scene, we see Aunt May and Spider-Man backstage, and Peter takes off his mask, as it was confirmed at the end of Homecoming in the post-credit scene. Aunt May knows he's Spider-Man, which I know most of us are used to a take where Aunt May doesn't know his secret, Aunt May's older, and yada, yada, yada. No one gives a shit. It's nice to have, in my opinion, a refreshing, not so much different take on Spider-Man, but one that we just don't see normally, especially in the mainstream between the cartoons and the past movies. I like the dynamic that we're getting with Aunt May and Peter. I like that they're kind of like a buddy mentor type deal. It's more fun. It's more inclusive. It makes Aunt May actually a more rounded character, in my opinion, other than just being this doting old woman who loves Peter but is very blind to all the bruises and the late nights and what he's been doing. And then we get a shot of Happy Hogan. Love Happy shows up with this $500,000 check. I assume that's for the charity from some big company that's donating for PR reasons or whatever. The whole thing with him and flirting with Aunt May that comes up, the new dress, the you look great. I don't know if that's going to form into a relationship. I don't expect it to. I think it is just going to be kind of like a one-off type issue where we had with Tony flirting with Aunt May in the previous movie for Spider-Man. So after the awkward moment of Happy flirting with Aunt May and Peter being like, WTF, mate, what just happened? We see Peter going for his passport. First we see him packing for his trip, going to get his passport. Didn't have, like I said before in the breakdown, they didn't have the year of the passport issue, just the date, expiration date, which I'm sure that's just an edit they made for the trailer, and that'll show it once the movie actually shows up and give us a better idea where it fits in. It shows him looking at a suit and deciding to leave it behind. That could be a misdirect. For all we know, he does have it with him. Granted, we do see a different, darker suit later on, and we'll get into that. But I think he takes it with him. I think it's a misdirect that he doesn't bring it with him. I think that we're just supposed to believe he doesn't because he's freaking Spider-Man. At the end of the day, he's a hero at heart, and he wants to be prepared. So I believe he's going to have it. We'll have to see. I really enjoyed the little bit of romance we had between Peter and MJ. I think it's very funny. It's kind of cute. It's very reminding of how young Peter is and how much of a dork he is, as well as this new side of MJ where she's not this, pretty girl bombshell. I'm not saying she's not an attractive actress or anything like that. It's just that we're so used to having MJ be this almost unrealistic pinup model that you see in the comics. And, that'll always be an MJ, a Mary Jane Watson that we have. But this one has so much more edge to her. She's much more intelligent. She doesn't come off as this helpless damsel, which I'm 100% into. Love it. Can't wait for them to do more of that in the MCU. I like her jokes, especially when she starts making fun of Peter with the whole, I'm pretty, so now it adds value to me, and he gets nervous. That's funny. That is very, it's more modern joke-wise, in my opinion. It's not this, oh my God, thank you. It's much more I feel how an organic situation these days would go with someone. So the next thing we see is Peter and Ned talking, walking to his room about the trip, and then Ned gets a dart to the neck. Very unexpected, but a little over the top, but, that's Nick Fury. So then we see Nick Fury introduce himself to Spider-Man. Nice to meet you. Spider-Man's kind of shocked. Then Nick starts breaking into the fact of, we have this issue. I need your help. Then it shows a couple different shots of Peter. It shows some shots of MJ on the top of the trolley bus, and Nick looking out over the bay. It shows a thing of shows a clip of Ned getting excited. I think that's going to be for a separate reason than the Nick Fury monologue we have over it. Get another shot of the wingsuit, which I can't remember if that was in the first movie or not, but I personally love the wings on the spider suit. I've always been one of my favorite designs. I'm glad to see it on the big screen, especially getting heavy attention. Now, the other thing with the wingsuit, though, is it's a darker tone. It has these almost like red fingertips with black sleeves. It's got a little bit different accent, so we'll see if that's a Shield-provided thing, if it's an upgrade Tony gave to Happy, because, Happy could easily have been tailing Spider-Man. That's kind of Happy's thing, is to tail certain characters. So Happy Hogan could definitely have this new wingsuit in there for him. Maybe it's just a new model. Maybe it's to make people think it's a different Spider-Man, which if that's the case, I think that's pretty, stupid, which I doubt that's the case. So then we start getting shots of the elemental creatures. We see thunder and lightning and earth and all that. You get the monologue from Fury asking Spider-Man to step up. Some cool shots of Spider-Man swinging, a little bit more of the dark tones. Then we see the stealth suit. The stealth suit, I'm going to assume, is provided by Fury, maybe as a shield thing. I don't know if they're going to use that to, same thing, be a different Spider-Man, give off the impression that it's not the same one from New York. Maybe it's for some kind of covert mission. But we'll have to see how that pans out. I don't remember the origin in which it was first seen in the comics, but I like it. It gives this almost like a mix of like a noir feeling with special agent Spider-Man kind of idea. So I think that's going to be cool. I can't wait to see how that gets incorporated into the plot of the movie. And now the part that I've really wanted to talk about is the reveal and the showing up of Mysterio. I'm confused a little bit, and I wouldn't say so much confused as I'm curious to see where they take the storyline with him, because Mysterio that we've traditionally known has always been a very good special effects artist who was, cast out for whatever reason, and maybe it's too intense of effects, I can't remember exactly, but a villain who specialized in special effects to a whole nother level, creating, what feels like clones, illusions of giant creatures that can actually hurt people. It's a pretty intense character. But here in the trailer, we see him, the first time he comes out, he says, "You don't want any part of this," and he starts blasting the elementals. So him battling the elemental, I was kind of caught off guard at first, because like I said, I'm used to Mysterio being a villain. I can't tell if they're going to go anti-hero route with him or whatever. I'll get into that opinion about it just in 1 second. But as far as like him out there, he's flying, he's got blasters. I know that Mysterio can do some of those things with the assistance of machinery or his effects in the comics. So I'm just going to chalk it up to his suit is that level of advance. They're probably going to go the route that they've been doing with a lot of characters in the MCU from the comics, and just, kind of trying to explain their abilities or their tech in a way that suits them without it just being like, oh, I can do this. You don't need to know how it works. So I think that what's going to happen with Mysterio, if I had to put my money anywhere, I would assume that they're going to do almost like this. So where he specializes in special effects, I think that they might go the route of he is using special effects to create these elementals. Like, the damage is still being done for real, and there is a need for assistance. But I feel like it's going to be a scenario where Mysterio, same thing, he's disavowed or, just thrown away from whatever career or whatever he was doing before and needed a way to feel relevant. Maybe he has like some kind of god or hero complex. So my personal theory is that all the elemental creatures, through a combination of special effects and cunning planning on the behalf of Mysterio, they're created for him to have something to destroy. They're created so he can be the hero, so he has somebody to save. And I think by the end of the movie, Mysterio will have revealed that he is the villain, or he'll be caught or discovered by Peter. Maybe that's where the stealth suit comes in. Maybe he has a weird feeling about Mysterio, or Nick Fury does, and he sends him in with the stealth suit to gather intel, to find out what he's up to, what his real agenda is. Because, Mysterio traditionally is a villain, and by the end of this movie, I guarantee you he's going to be the villain, or set him up for being a greater villain down the road. And the final bit of the trailer we had is Flash Thompson, which I know not everyone's in love with this newer version of Flash. We're all used to the jock version, or the version that eventually grows up to become Agent Venom. But with this Flash, I do find it funny because in the absence of a J. Jonah Jameson, we do have him kind of filling in the distaste for Peter, like almost like a reversal of the JJs, I guess what I would say is, instead of hating Spider-Man and at least like liking Peter and, appreciating the work he does, we have Flash, who is a lot more into, Spider-Man as a hero than I thought he originally was. I don't remember him being super pro Spider-Man back in the first movie, but in this one, he clearly has like a big support for him. He really likes the guy, and, because of the way they cut the trailer and the way it was set up, the moment he's done saying how much he likes Spider-Man, in comes Peter. And the best part of this being Spider-Man is it's aimed toward kids, and Flash Thompson ends the trailer with, "What's up, dickwad?" I think that was hilarious. I think it was well timed, and I definitely feel that it shows that, like, I'm not saying it's an edgy movie, but it definitely shows that they're taking off the PG gloves to a degree and really showing these kids be more realistic to how kids these days act, because, no kid's not saying something to that effect. They're going to say dumb jokes like that, mean jokes like that. So I feel it really does play into more organic on how Spider-Man would be dealing and living in 2018, living in an average life as Spider-Man 2. In the previous movies with Amazing Spider-Man and with the first Spider-Man, it wasn't so much that it wasn't believable. It was just the Peter felt too old. He felt out of it. It just didn't feel like a coming of age story like it was supposed to. Whereas this, you really feel the growth of Spider-Man movie to movie. So far, anyway. We'll have to see if Far From Home lives up to our expectations, or at least my expectations. The current theories online as far as where this movie ended up being, I believe it's a prequel, in that the stuff that we see as far as like the bus in the beginning of Avengers Infinity War is actually them coming back from this trip. That's my opinion on it. I think that also kind of explains why, we're seeing Peter and Nick in the first place. But then again, I believe Spider-Man Far From Home comes out after Endgame, so that might be wrong. A lot of people seem to believe that this is like a merged timeline, or a new timeline that is only slightly different from the one we've been following. I don't think that's true. I think by the end of Endgame, everything is going to go back to normal. Maybe we'll have some new characters in there or different heroes, but I don't think that we're going to end up with, a slightly altered Spider-Man or anything like that grave or that serious. But my other thing is, I feel like he would be very traumatized from being snapped away by Thanos, and I feel like he seems to be completely fine temperament-wise, so unless that's just a decision that Sony and the Marvel Studios decide to, find common ground on, I'd expect him to be a little more, like, reluctant to jump into battle with these super powerful baddies again. But, that's my opinion. Other people believe, like I said, that it's a time that they're, due to the time travel that clearly is being hinted at in Endgame, that this is a merger of timelines, or something was altered enough to slightly change the outcome. But based on the fact it's, two suits, I can't imagine that it's a merged timeline just because he has new suits. I mean, As far as suits go, Spider-Man's going to end up being the new Iron Man of suits because Tony's just going to whip him up new ones constantly. That's just, how it's going to be. He's one of the characters that has a lot of suits to flex and to show off, and that'll look really cool on screen. So that's definitely something I expect to be the main thing. I don't think this is an alternate timeline or anything like that. But that's the breakdown so far. I'm not going to get into Easter eggs or anything like that. It's a fun thing to do, but it's just too much for me to want to do. I want to pump out more episodes in a quick, timely manner. I don't want to talk your ear off for too long. I want you to be able to get in, get your information, get out, and have a good time. So I appreciate you listening to the Misfit Broadcast. I'm your host, Kingjuicifer. You can find me everywhere at Kingjuicifer. That's KINGJUICIFER. That's on the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Follow Misfit Broadcasting at Facebook as well. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace.